So, it's been officially confirmed that Rachel Zegler is going to be playing the role of Eva Peron in the upcoming Jamie Lloyd-directed revival of Evita in the West End.
She thinks she should get paid more because she has to wear that dress. She should get paid for streaming. For every hour she has to wear the dress. I mean, talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Not only are you being casted in a classic film to remake it, but you don't seemingly like your own character. So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
And now she's coming over to London. People have been questioning whether she is the right age to play the part.
Reportedly, she was pulled out of the practice by security personnel, while the cast remained in startled silence. She did not storm off, nor did she quit in the middle of the rehearsal.
Idiot I've been as a young person in this industry who has no filter and no idea.
As a result of the footage that emerged from within one of the final rehearsals of the Evita Revival starring Rachel Zegler, insiders are asserting that this is the case. The incident was so tumultuous and strange that it is now making waves far beyond the Western stage.
To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line.
There is a video that has been leaked that was reportedly filmed from a security camera inside the venue. In the video, Zegler can be seen pacing near the front of the stage, and tension can be seen crackling through the air. Crew members can be seen huddled together in the wings. A voice that is not captured on camera is said to be the assistant director of the show shouting, "I said, get her out now." Seconds later, two security staff approach Zegler from opposite sides. She flinches. A brief verbal exchange occurs, mostly inaudible, and then she's escorted off stage, not forcefully, not violently, but unmistakably against her will. The rehearsal halts, no one moves, the music stops, and just like that she's gone.
Rachel, you got time to sign some autographs for us, Rachel? Thank you, Rachel. Maybe on the way out?
Multiple cast members have since confirmed that this was not a staged moment or a part of the show. Rather, it was a real removal, an alleged breakdown that occurred after weeks of what some people are now calling creative warfare between Zegler and the directing team. One Backstage source put it bluntly, saying that we had been walking on eggshells for weeks, and that day was the day that the shell cracked. However, how did it come to this?
It is the real beginning of my life as a young lady of America. Of America.
What started out as one of the most anticipated stage debuts in years has spiraled into walkouts, alleged power plays, and now security intervention. This wasn't just a difficult rehearsal, it was a professional implosion, and the footage that was leaked is just the tip of the iceberg. Rachel Zegler was supposed to bring back Eva Peron, but instead she rewrote the rulebook for the Backstage area.
My mad existence, I kept my promise. Don't keep your...
Because when we pull back the curtain, the story behind Zegler's Evita experience is even more turbulent than anyone imagined. The signs were there, the interviews, the social media posts, the walkouts. But nobody saw this coming, not even her biggest critics. So how did the actress once hailed as the future of Hollywood end up being escorted out of her own rehearsal? Let us go back in time, because the beginning of this story does not begin with the footage. Rather, it begins with a dream role and an abrupt and severe collapse.
But it's hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
Not long ago, Rachel Zegler couldn't stop raving about Evita in interview after interview. She described the casting as life-changing. She called it a tribute to Latin culture, to powerful women in history, even posted behind-the-scenes selfies with heartfelt captions about legacy and transformation. The media loved it, fans rallied behind her. And for a moment it seemed like this might be her redemption arc, a graceful pivot away from the Snow White debacle and the Shazam mess. But then almost overnight, something shifted.
And then, because, I mean, you seem to be dominating the world of musicals. You're doing Evita in London, right?
Big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan right over there.
Is that your dad whistling?
Yeah. You guys see Stanley Tucci back there?
That'll be fun, huh?
It's going to be the best time. It's my West End debut. I'm so excited.
You've done a lot of Broadway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did Shakespeare for 20 weeks. I'm coming off of that right now.
20 weeks of Shakespeare.
It's a lot.
Do they say like the audiences in England are different than the American audience?
I've heard they're more reserved, and I certainly didn't have a very reserved experience on Broadway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in an 800-seat theater in the round, so you really are this close to your audience at times. And I'm with the biggest heartthrob.
Were the eager updates and glowing praise in their place the use of cryptic subtitles, emotional stillness, and ultimately the assignment of guilt? Zegler allegedly began describing the production as unsafe, hostile, and creatively gaslighting in private messages later leaked to fan accounts. She reportedly claimed the environment was emotionally damaging and artistically oppressive. According to one source close to the production, she was overheard telling a friend, "It's not collaboration, it's control. This isn't art, it's ego management." And yet, the same friend claims that those objections were not brought up until a significant amount of time later, after rehearsals had already begun to head in the wrong direction. So what made the difference?
I get stalker photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
Zegler's usual methods just didn't fit, and once rehearsal friction began leaking to the public, Zegler allegedly shifted into damage control. Some insiders believe that it wasn't the environment at all. Rather, it was the pressure, the expectation, and the realization that Eva wasn't going to be a one-woman vehicle. They also believe that it was the realization that this was a tight-knit, fast-moving production. The narrative changed. Her team stopped promoting the production. Comments on her earlier Evita posts mysteriously vanished. The once celebratory energy was replaced with vague claims of mistreatment, the kind that couldn't easily be verified, but couldn't be dismissed either. To her fans, she was speaking truth to power.
There should be a world in which she can thrive, but people don't know how to make blockbusters anymore either. Like, every blockbuster is bad. Like, blockbusters are flopping right now at a rate that we have never seen before, and this can kind of explain what's going on with Shazam too. Even though, like, again, Zachary Levi being a horrible person, that is also something that she could not really foresee or, like, have control of necessarily. But yeah, it is just kind of this weird thing where, like, a lot of things in the industry are kind of working against her with the skill set that she does have. If you think about other actors of her generation or, like, slightly older than her, they start with indie projects. The indie projects are good. They don't get too many eyes on them, so they don't get too much notoriety, and they're able to, like, kind of build their resume that way. Or they start in, like, TV. Something less high profile than, like, a Steven Spielberg directed West Side Story remake. And by the way, do I think she could do a really quiet indie movie where she doesn't sing and be totally successful? Absolutely. But just, like, as it stands right now, from what we've seen of her so far, like, she has a certain skill set, but there is a true lack of, like, I think, visionary leadership in Hollywood that knows what to do with that kind of talent.
To theater experts, it felt all too familiar, because this wasn't the first time Zegler had flipped the script, not the first time she'd publicly celebrated a part only to later condemn it when things got complicated. Snow White, Shazam, and now Evita.
Do you have a terrible audition experience?
I do. I do have a terrible audition
What is
experience. I was actually, oddly enough, auditioning for a Broadway show of a very famous Broadway musical that was having a revival, and the producers and directors were ordering lunch while I was singing.
What?
It was so
Like,
horrible.
actually while you were singing a song?
Yeah. I booked West Side Story a week later, though.
But this time the consequences weren't only digital criticism or bad headlines. This time real people, castmates, crew members, producers were being dragged into the narrative, and behind the scenes they were already preparing for a much bigger fallout. Because if what they were saying was true, Zegler wasn't just struggling, she was becoming impossible to work with. And that's where things really start to unravel.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
She needs a few more minutes to prepare. To outsiders, these might seem harmless, but in a tightly run production like Evita, every minute counts, and every delay ripples through the entire team. But what really raised eyebrows wasn't the lateness, it was the resistance. Sources claim Zegler routinely pushed back on direction. She allegedly questioned stage blocking, challenged line delivery, and even rewrote choreography without approval. One lighting tech described it like this: every cue turned into a debate. It felt like we were rehearsing around her, not with her. Director Jamie Lloyd, known for his collaborative style and sharp vision, reportedly spent more time managing Zegler's moods than refining the actual show. And the cast? They started adapting, not in the creative sense, but in the survival sense. Ensemble members allegedly asked to be moved to different sides of the stage. A few reportedly requested audio changes to balance out Zegler's spontaneous vocal riffs, which some claim were completely overpowering. One chorus member described her energy as unpredictable. She'd either go all in or disappear mentally. There was no middle ground, and that inconsistency began fracturing the team. People stopped sharing notes. Eye contact during group numbers faded. Energy in the room dipped. According to one assistant choreographer, it felt like everyone was working on different shows, like we weren't speaking the same language anymore. Then came the rehearsal, the one where everything boiled over. It was supposed to be a full run-through. The stakes were high. This was the first time producers and backers were watching from the seats. But just minutes in, Zegler allegedly stopped the show over, of all things, the lighting. She didn't like the shadows. She didn't like how her dress moved. She didn't like the color tone, and so she stopped. She allegedly refused to go on until it was fixed. The crew scrambled to adjust. The director reportedly left the room. And by the time things settled, Zegler was gone, quietly. No goodbye, no explanation, just vanished mid-rehearsal. And for many, that was the moment they realized this wasn't a creative disagreement. This was a ticking time bomb. And what happened next? That's when it really got bad. What happened after that lighting dispute wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. And somehow that made it even worse. Rachel Zegler didn't return to the rehearsal after her exit. No call, no message, no explanation to the cast or crew. She just didn't come back. And in a production as high profile and tightly scheduled as Evita, that kind of silence speaks volumes. People waited around, unsure what to do. Was it a break, a creative reset, a meltdown? No one knew. But as the hours ticked by, the energy in the room shifted. It was no longer about frustration or disappointment. It was disbelief, because the lead of the show, the person who should have been setting the tone, had simply walked out. And that's when the director made a decision that stunned even the veteran cast members. Jamie Lloyd, the creative force behind the revival, reportedly stopped speaking to Zegler altogether. No more private notes. No more collaborative direction. From that point on, every instruction, every change, every update went through his assistant or the stage manager. It wasn't said out loud, but everyone understood what that meant. Trust had been broken. In the world of live theater, communication between director and lead is sacred. It's the backbone of a successful production. And when that channel shuts down, the entire machine starts to malfunction. Behind the scenes, meetings began. Not creative ones, crisis ones. Producers and legal consultants reportedly huddled in private to examine Zegler's contract. Was there a clause that allowed for recasting? Could they replace her this late into rehearsals?